This is SoulCharge, the podcast for women leaders to take the highest level of ownership of their power to create results now. I'm your host, Stacy B. Let's dive in. How do you guarantee your results will be your results for sure? It all depends on the level of inevitability that you bring to the scene. This episode is all about the hidden truth, which is this. Your level of conviction and your level of certainty is the secret sauce that makes your results certain or not. And it is time to take ownership of that truth, that your degree of certitude, your degree of certainty that you are bringing to the situation, the actions you're taking, the thoughts you're thinking, the emotions you're feeling, that level of certainty, that level and attitude of this result is inevitable, is absolutely the secret, and it's time to claim that today. I love this topic, and frankly, this topic is boiled down one of the core values of SoulCharge, and that is certitude. And certitude to me means an attitude of certainty. Your level of certitude is absolutely the untapped resource. It is absolutely the thing that you are not using the way that it was meant to be used. And the reason why certitude is one of our core values is because it's all encompassing. If you start living your life with an attitude of certitude and you start to see that to the degree you associate certain outcomes, you go all in essentially on your results, that this is inevitable, you actually collapse time and it comes into your life faster. So let's talk about this hidden truth for a moment. This hidden truth that you're probably searching outside of yourself for. It's very common. And we're looking constantly for certainty outside of ourselves. We're constantly looking for safety outside of ourselves. And this is actually where we're getting it wrong, and why the distortion between setting an intention and actually realizing the result can happen and be in place longer than necessary, because we're not seeing that this is within us. And so it's conditioning, right? It is the patterns and the programs that we have been taught over our lifetimes that we get validation and certainty and affirmations from external. And if we get that, we're safe. And this conversation today is taking this deeper so that you can fully own the truth, which is it's your responsibility to embody certainty. And if you start to do that, what actually happens is the pure magic. Like when we look at manifestation and we look at, the woo-woo side of what we teach, because we're very much like mystical and practical around here, right? And the truth is that it's not really mystical. It's just using your God-given spirit of certainty, your God-given decision-making power, that the way something is going to go is ... You have the ability to call the shots, and it is high time that you take ownership of it. You have not been taught, we have not been taught out of the womb, kicking and screaming, that we get to call the shot with the power of our intention, that we get to create it in our mind, and it's with our certainty that we create it in reality. We're taught that the world happens to us. There's an element of victim consciousness, and certitude and inevitability is not something that is talked about a lot. And so, of course, we go through the world hoping. Even the most successful still have this glimmer of hope, and it's when they flip the switch completely, entirely, into moving through the world with the power of their intentions, matching that with certainty that the outcome is inevitable. That's when the game changes. And so, first and foremost, this truth is you have to take ownership that this is your power. This is your superpower, the ability to be certain. So let's dive into that a little bit more. When you are setting a goal, setting an outcome, you have the choice to be hopeful or to be certain. So how do you do that, right? If we take this into the land of the practical, how do we do that is it's as simple as deciding that it's done. And so to tune into that feeling and embody certainty and a feeling of done, what you would do is you would take the result or the outcome that you are building towards or you're after, and you would ask yourself, what would it be like if this was done? Would I move through the world differently? Would I act differently? Would I be different? Would I be hanging out with different people? Would I be living in a different house? Like, asking those probing questions allows you to actually get to the root of the embodiment, because so often what we find is that we want the thing, we're hoping for the thing, and our action is also in the frequency of hope. And that is not the most powerful form of action. Your thoughts are also hopeful. Your reality is of hope. And hope is not getting shit done. Certainty is getting things done. Certainty is moving through the world with this level of conviction that is, this is done. It's not a question. There's no question of it's getting done. I can't wait to receive it. I can't wait to meet it. I can't wait to welcome it into my life. And so thinking of it in that way is so powerful. And it boils down to your decision. You have the ability to decide, am I going to be certain about this, or am I going to be hopeful? Now you might say, well, Stacy, I don't have control over other people's actions. Outcomes are out of my control. And what I have to say to you is that is not true. What is true is you don't have control over people's actions. You don't have control over what other people are doing. But what you have full control over is the power of your word, the power of your intention, the power of your action, and the choice that whatever it is that you are pursuing is done. I want to give you an example of this in a very practical and challenging time that I went through, because it's such a great example of this in motion, in action, especially when you're facing stress. Because a lot of times when you're building something, you're just firing on all cylinders, you're doing all the things, and you sometimes can't see the light, right? And you just know that this is the long game. You're playing the long game and you're going to keep going. In July of 2020, I was in the midst of finishing building an 11 home subdivision. I had sold 6 of the homes, 5 were remaining. COVID had just hit. Luckily, the Boise market was super jamming. I mean, it was booming like crazy, but my homes were not selling. And I had done all the things. Things were getting really, really tight. I was under a lot of pressure. I was not only building the houses, but I was selling the houses, and I was also selling other real estate during that time. And I sat down with myself and I said, what are all the options? Okay, I could refinance these 5 homes and I could keep them as investment property, or we get them sold. And I sat with myself and I said, okay, I'm going to go through all the motions of getting them refinanced, like going through the process so that I like have those boxes checked as a fail-safe. And then I'm going to do everything, leave no stone unturned to try and sell these houses. And I sat down with myself and I asked myself, how would I feel if these 5 homes were sold? And I sat and I felt my body, and I felt my body lift. I would be smiling. I would be elated. I would have high energy. A couple of these qualities I was not embodying, right? Because I'm like under pressure and I'm stressed. And so that was my first sort of integrity check, was I'm not acting like she would if these were sold. So I said, I'm going to start acting like that. And then I started doing a visualization practice every single day. I started on July 11th, and I will never forget this. Still remember the date I started. And I imagined these 5 homes. I imagined the tiles in each one, right? Because I had different designer packages in each one. I imagined the buyers walking through and appreciating the cows in the distance of the backyards. I saw their smiling faces in my visualization. I saw them asking me if they could pay full price. I saw them asking me if they could pay cash and close in 2 weeks. Within 11 days, I had all of those homes sold. Most of them were cash offers, and they ended up all selling. that was an example of this hidden truth of done. I didn't act like those houses were a pain anymore. I didn't stress about them. I moved through the world as if I had those offers, and frankly, not even the offers, but the closing money in my account that those homes were sold. And that is the whole thing, is that as I started walking through the world embodied in that truth, what ended up happening is I made different choices. I decided to hold open houses on different days because that was more competitive. I just started thinking about things differently because my brain wasn't in fight or flight, right? I was visualizing as done. And I want to say something to this as I just said fight or flight, is that when you are building towards something, and if you are in hope energy versus conviction, certain energy, what happens is your brain is also tied up. When your brain is in between worlds, when your brain is living between two realities, which is the reality of hope and the reality of what you wish would happen, what happens is your brain is actually losing energy. Your body is losing energy. You have a leak that's happening because you're straddling two worlds. And so it's not even just like a nice to have that we need to be in the energy of certainty, the energy of inevitability. It's not a nice to have. It's actually damaging for our bodies, our hearts, our spirits, and our minds if we are living between two worlds. If we are not decisive and calling how this is going to go and landing the plane and being convicted, it's actually damaging and leaking our energy. And we're not able to be as effective or as resourceful or as powerful as we really are because this is draining us. This is impacting us. And so it's not a nice to have. It's not like a luxury. It is available to you to stop living in the realm of hope. Hope is not your truth. It is not your frequency. It is not your true embodiment. It is something that is a coping mechanism so that you don't get disappointed from past patterns and hurts that are not even yours. And it's time to stop it. It is time to move through the world in the conviction that is rightfully yours and to claim that. Because on the last episode, I talked a lot about sales and this idea of like sales being your external expression of your power. And at the core of that is what I'm going deeper in today, right? Which is conviction. Conviction and assigning your conviction with your thoughts, attaching your conviction with your intentions, living in the spirit of inevitability is a choice that is available. And it's actually the key to everything that you want. It's not something that only those that understand manifestation have access to, or the gurus or the teachers. It is literally as basic as I am going to decide that this is done. What would I be like if this was done? What would my life be like? How would I act? And start being that person now. Because here's the thing, if we look at what's the equation, I call this the creation equation in our world, but what is the creation equation that makes magic happen? It's intention, it's emotion, it's action, it's vision, and it is with the cherry on top of certainty. It is with the cherry on top of my intention and desire is done. And I'm going to move through the world in that energy. And so if we look at that for a minute and we say, am I checking those boxes? I want you to think of this like, what if this creation equation was what was missing to fulfill my dreams, my goals, and what I want next? Check yourself. What is your intention? Is that clear? And are you jacked about it? What do you feel about it? Think of it being done. Think of your life. How would it be different if you really bought into this being done? Cultivate and feel those feelings every day. And are you taking unapologetic, relentless, fierce action that matches that intention as done? Because a lot of times we take the action, but it's hesitant action. It's hopeful action. And at the core, whatever the core baseline energy that's below our action, our intention, that is the attraction point. And so if you are being hopeful that something's going to happen, that's what you're going to get, is more hope. And hope does not deliver results. So let's put that down and put that aside. I promise you, if you start moving through the world with this level of done, with this level of my success is inevitable, what I desire is already done, you will not only achieve what you want, but you're going to do it faster. Because what collapses time? I recently did a social post on this, and I talked about collapsing time. There's so much talk about collapsing time in the marketplace. There's so much talk about how do we do it? How do we speed things up? And as a leader, I know you want things faster. The way that you do that is the degree of certainty you bring to the equation. The degree of the attitude that the thing you want is already done collapses time. That is how you make a quantum leap. That is how you do a quantum shift, is the energy that you bring. Because here's the truth. Quantum is you become a match to the thing in the quantum field. It's already existing. Everything that we want is already out there and available to us. It's all about that, becoming a match. And so if you're moving through the world in hope, no wonder you don't have what you want, because hope is not a match to results. Hope is passive. Hope is a lower frequency. Hope is, I hope I don't get disappointed. Hope is, I'm not available for disappointment. I don't even experience disappointment because I'm so convicted about my results. That is a completely different energy. And so know that that's actually the thing that's been missing when we think about what you're trying to call in. When we think about what's next, is if you can really, really look at what is my underlying energy that I'm bringing to the topic, my intention, and the emotion that I'm feeling. And is that a match to the end result? And I promise you, if you self-reflect on this and you take a step back and you really check yourself, and you're 100% honest, this small thing, moving through the world with conviction, with inevitability, evoking that is going to change it all, and it's going to happen so fast. Mark my words, apply this and see how quickly the things that you want become your walking reality today. Are you loving SoulCharge? If so, hit the subscribe button, leave a review, and share an episode. We want to bring powerful content to women leaders each week so that women can be unleashed to create the results that they want now. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.